So photography can be hard, and even after doing this for many years now, I still constantly want to be improving. Here in front of me, I've got a collection of some of my favorite images from throughout the year, which I'll display throughout this video. By looking at them, I want to see, have I improved my photography? Now, I wish there was maybe a few more hero images. This particular one from Lisbon here is definitely one of my favorites. Of course, you can do this too, but the beauty of looking back like this is really identifying and looking how did you improve this year and what actually worked to help you improve. So I've come up with 5 key takeaways from reflecting myself, really simple things that you can follow along to do as well. The question I asked myself is, have you improved your photography this year? Or how have you improved your photography this year? No, not how many followers you've gained or anything like that. Purely looking more at, have you got better? When you are motivated and feeling inspired, this is definitely when you're more likely to grow as a photographer, because you're more likely to go out and shoot, you're more likely to study photographers, draw inspiration from others. Yes, I'm going to talk about ways you can improve your photography, but also ways to keep you inspired, drawing inspiration from others, how to cultivate it yourself, ultimately so you can improve your photography. Let's jump in. Of course, this one sounds maybe too obvious and a little bit simple to get started, but when was the last time you went out to shoot purely with the intention of practicing a particular photography skill? So I've actively made an effort to do this throughout the year, perhaps not as much as I'd like, but definitely something that I need to do more and more of in the future. So this is a really great way to build confidence in a range of different settings and situations. It helps train your eye, you can try different techniques, and it can also help spark creativity because it's just getting you out the door with no expectations, again, on the overall result. By framing it simply as practice, it also takes a lot of that pressure off, which might stop you taking your camera out in the first place. So for me, this is really simple. All I do is get my camera and basically wander around the street with a very clear intention to practice. This year, there were several different cameras as well, from my usual Canon setup to using the Fuji X-Pro 3, even shooting a bit on a phone using the Oppo Find N3, as well as shooting quite a bit on film as well. For me, mixing up my camera and medium like this not only helped keep me interested, it helped challenge me in different ways and maybe practice slightly different skills. One thing I recommend when doing this is having a clear intention when you go out for one of these practice sessions. As an example, I might go out with the aim of finding some unique patches of light, something I enjoy doing and seeking out, or it might be to go out and look for unique details that take your eye. More recently, I've also been experimenting a lot more with slow shutter techniques. Having a clear intention or skill you wish to practice like this really helps hone in on that particular skill and improve. Once you get back, review the images, see what worked and what didn't work, and how can you improve on this next time. This year, probably far more than others, I've got back to what drew me into photography in the first place, and that is finding inspiration in others, looking at their work and really thinking about it a little bit more deeply, working exactly what I like or what draws me to their work. How can I maybe adapt some of these things into my own photography style? We are really lucky in this day and age. It's so easy to jump on social media and draw inspiration from others. The key here, I think, is try not to be discouraged. Don't think you'll never achieve a certain level. Try and shift that mindset more to one of inspiration. Remember, everyone's on a different journey. And remember, to get to any level, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of patience, and definitely a lot of hard work. If you are stuck for motivation, here's a few photographers that have inspired me throughout the year. When I look at these people, they're people that really value the art of photography, not just content creation, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the stuff that really inspires me is where you can really sense that love of photography. Firstly is a photographer who has become one of my favorite street photographers this year, the type of photography that really inspires me as it is the type I love to shoot. So these images by Roman, sharing a lot of photography during bright daylight hours, has this way of using light that I always find impressive, but also his eye for simple yet beautiful moments and characters from everyday life are what I really love about this style. The next one I want to talk about is actually a pretty good friend of mine. So what initially drew me towards Mitch's photography was his portraits, but more lately I have been loving these in-between type moments he's capturing. One thing that always stands out about Mitch's work is how he always uses light in a really intentional way, a really important skill for all types of photography. This is why it's worth studying other photographers, working out exactly what you like about their particular styles and how you can possibly adapt this into your own. These next photos, you can recognize this connection between the natural and more man-made world, which is a real key to his style. I also really love the clean editing style. James is another photographer who clearly has this very mindful intention when it comes to his photography and his thinking behind it. Aaron here is another street photographer I only discovered this year. I find his eye and some of the unique details he captures on the streets super interesting, capturing these unique moments and scenes, especially a lot of interesting ones at night. Lastly, another friend of mine, Pat, someone else who always thinks really deeply about his photography. Having known Pat for many years, his love and deep thinking when it comes to photography have always shown in his work. Of course, you might draw and seek inspiration from totally different photographers to me, but have a look at their work. What draws you to those photos? What impresses you about those photos? Can you adapt some of these things into your own style and your own work? Next up here, experimenting. Now this is key for me. If you can get out and try slightly new or different things, they don't have to be crazy different, but even if they're just enough to challenge you, this is really great to help keep you interested because it helps keep you a little bit challenged as well. So this is really crucial in keeping you motivated as well. To give you a few examples, for me this year, I've tried to shoot a lot more film photography, slightly more outside my comfort zone, but something I have really enjoyed and definitely helped me progress. For me, this really helps slow things down when you have limited shots and also helps really dial in on your composition. Another simple one, but in the past, I have always really relied on shallow depth of field, perhaps to my own hindrance. So lately I've made an effort to experiment more with narrower apertures, especially when it comes to street photography, keeping more of the overall scene in focus. Again, I think something like this has helped me focus on composing an overall scene better, not just relying on a fancy lens and some nice bokeh. Lastly, I had a lot of fun recently in Japan, really experimenting a little bit more with slower shutter speeds. I literally just stood at Shibuya Crossing practicing this, and it can be a bit hit and miss, but I did find some really interesting frames from doing it. Of course, once you've practiced different skills like these, the key is just to sprinkle them into your photography as a whole, just having them there in your arsenal when you might need them. This one again seems simple enough, but I think for a lot of people, once you get to a certain level of efficiency for editing, you probably think that's good enough and might stop learning new skills. But for me, this is something I'm always working on advancing my skills. It helps keeps me interested, but I think it also helps adapt and advance my photography over time. For me, this can involve practicing different editing styles that perhaps I wouldn't usually use. This just helps train your skills, and you might pick up little pieces from that you can take back and adapt into your own style. This is, for me, where you develop a style from trying a range of different things and taking pieces from all these inspirations. You ultimately end up with your own style. This year, I've switched up to this almost dreamy film type look, which I've created in a recent preset pack. It's a bit brighter than my usual edits. It has this soft, almost film look to it. But I'm also trying to achieve quite a unique pop of color, which is something I always like in my photos. To me, if you're working with presets, always use this just as a base. Once you've applied a preset, even if you are happy with it, have a look and see how can you take your edit to the next level. Can you tweak those colors a little bit more, maybe add some selective edits, really make that photo your own, or really make that photo stand out in its own unique way. Of course, you can check out my presets if you are interested. I really do appreciate all the support on this channel. I spend a lot of time creating these presets, not only so you and other people can use them, but ultimately so I can use them myself as well. Lastly, regardless of how long you've been doing photography or how experienced you may be, adapting that learner's mindset and accepting there's always room for improvement. So thinking really deeply about things like composition and lighting to me are crucial. How can you improve this particular photo? Is the light right? Would anything make it better? So when it comes to composition, yes, you can experiment with different focal lengths, but I think a key one is to actually just pick one focal length like a prime lens and go out and shoot with that lens for an extended period of time. I think this is a really great way to really dial in on your eye and composition skills, and this is why I shoot a lot at 50mm. When it comes to light, think a little bit more deeply about what type of light you like to shoot in. You could do this by going back and looking at some of your photos like I am. What's happening in those photos? Where is the light coming from? You could do this with other people's photos as well. Work out which direction is the light coming from, and then adapting this again into your own photography. For me this year, I actually spent a lot of time shooting more during the day, where I would usually stick to those sunrise or sunset times in the past. I really enjoyed this, and I also liked the results I was sometimes able to achieve. All right, so that's pretty much it from me. Lastly, I just want to say, remember to get your photography out there. Share it with as many people as you can. Look for feedback, and if you do get criticism, take it on board in the best way, because this can be the best way to learn. So I hope you have enjoyed this one and got a lot out of it. I know I have from reflecting on these things. And thank you for all the support on the channel this year. It is greatly appreciated. Please do subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss a thing. Keep on creating and keep on growing, my friends. I will catch you in the next one next year. Bye for now.